On this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock, 69 facts you didn't know, a summary of all the recently released previews, and a Red Dead Redemption 2 live show. It's all here on this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock. Hello and welcome to this episode of Red Dead 2 o'clock. My name is James and joining me is co-host Dan Dawkins.
Hello.
Hello. So Dan, today we are going to talk about a load of quick-fire bullet point facts as the main point of the show. But first, we should address some things from our trailer analysis episode that went up this week as well. Obviously, we were very excited about it, maybe too excited, and we've missed a few details and got a few of the facts wrong. So let's just address it. These ladies are actually very important ladies, obviously. It's Karen, Tilly and Mary Beth. Big members of the camp.
Yeah, thanks to everyone in the comments who pointed out our excitable goof.
Yes. This lady isn't Abigail Roberts, as I said she might have been. It's actually Sadie Adler, who will be going around with you, doing missions with you, helping you out on things. One little thing that we didn't mention is this guy here is possibly Colm O'Driscoll, which is the leader of one of the big gangs. We saw a lot of the gang members in our demo, but didn't meet him. It's not confirmed that it's him, but he looks pretty fancy, and the guys in the background look like similar to the ones that we were fighting in the demo.
Yeah, so they'd be the boss of the gang we fought in our hands-on demo.
Okay, now, just before we get into the main points, we should also mention spoilers. That was another big thing in the trailer analysis episode. It's difficult to know where to draw the line on spoilers. Obviously, this show's quite in-depth. We go into quite a lot of detail, but there's other people out there who don't want to know about every single element of the game and the missions and things like that. So, to help, we have this new thing on screen that you can see right now that will pop up whenever we might be entering spoiler territory, so you can choose to skip. And then when we get into the facts, we'll pop this up, and then you can just get the facts, which should be spoiler-free because they're just facts taken from previews and everything like that.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult line to walk. I guess when some people see the word analysis on a YouTube video, I think they interpret that as saying this is purely factual analysis without a side serving of speculation or prediction or anything else. As you will know if you've listened to previous episodes of Red Dead 2 o'clock or listened to our previous show, GTA 5 o'clock, we would take a kind of blurring the lines approach where we would definitely look at the facts to build a case for speculative predictions. Now, I'd like to think that because our fact work is solid, that when we make predictions, they sound more plausible than maybe they are. But if you listen back to the last episode, a lot of the things that I said about what I believe to be the structure of the full game, I don't factually know that. I know what I've seen and what I've played and what we've seen in the trailers, but I am putting two and two together to speculate what it might be. So I'm sorry if that felt like a spoiler or you're worried that will ruin your enjoyment of the game in some way. But I will add, I'm not leaking something I know to be true. I'm purely and hopefully speculating a case.
Yeah, and if it happens to be correct, well done you.
Yeah,
but it might not.
And sorry
be.
For the spoilers.
Okay, well, speaking of that, I think we should put up the spoiler thing now because GameSpot have got hands-on with the first 5 hours of the game, and we're talking the very first 5 hours, so like the first missions. We're not going to talk about any of the actual story elements, but there are things in here that you might not want to know if you want to avoid the very beginning. Like, there's nothing to do with the missions or the characters or anything, but there's just little things that you might want to skip over. So if you do, look out for the questions thing on screen and skip to that, and you can just get the facts. So with that out of the way, yes, GameSpot have played the very first mission. They've done a little Q&A on Twitter about it as well. Some of the answers are interesting. For instance, they were asked how many playable characters are there, and they said just Arthur Morgan. So our theory of maybe you're switching characters is out.
Well, it's out publicly.
Okay.
For example, and this is again where the little spoilers thing might go up, for those who have played the first game, were I PRing that game, I'd have said there was one playable character.
Well, yes.
So, do I think this rules out Rockstar springing a surprise? No. But what I think they are making clear is that this chiefly one character, this isn't a multi-wheel swap thing like GTA 5.
Yeah.
Is my take on it.
Okay. So, yeah, they said that they started the demo paused on the intro screen. The beginning of the game takes about 2 hours, which I think we knew before you get into the big open world bit. That's a sort of linear section to get you introduced to the systems and the mechanics of the game. Said it reminded them a lot of the beginning of GTA 5, because it's a failed heist, as we've mentioned, because it's snow like in North Yankton. There's a lot of elements in there, but I think the beginning of Red Dead 2 is going to be much slower paced because it's cowboys and it's not, robbing a bank in what is essentially today's world and driving away in cars. Like, you've got horses and things like that. So they said that you might feel it to be a bit slower. But one interesting thing they did say was you have to keep track of your body temperature and stamina, as it will be affected by what you're wearing.
Yeah.
So you can get loads of different coats and outfits in the game, but you have to make sure you've got the relevant clothing on to go to that certain area of the map, I guess.
It doesn't sound as intricate as previous examples of this, where for people who've played The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, there's a very explicit system where they keep you away from areas of the map that are too hot or too cold until you've got the requisite equipment. I guess it's a different way to do the fog of war system, like to shroud people out from different zones. Now in Zelda, like, you really, really had to have certain equipment or take potions, or you literally couldn't go into some areas. This doesn't sound quite as unforgiving as that, but yeah, I think what will happen is your core stamina bar will probably drop quicker because your character's chilly.
Yeah. They did actually mention Zelda quite a lot in their video preview of it because of the way that the world seemed quite similar. In Zelda, you're basically given the world as a playground.
Yeah.
And then all of the mechanics are like built into it, but you essentially do what you want. I think they said that Red Dead is quite similar to that.
That's
that
interesting.
It's a world that you're just in.
Like, my take, and I played like 100 hours of Zelda Breath of the Wild, is that, and I've only played 5 hours or something of Red Dead, is that Zelda feels more toy boxy and experiential in terms of the way you combine things and use physics to make strange stuff happen. I could be proved completely wrong, and the two are actually quite comparable experiences. I think the thing that's most notable perhaps to Zelda is the way that Red Dead blurs the lines between story mission and side mission to create an organic experience. You almost hazard upon things to do, which is very much the Zelda experience.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that, and maybe Red Dead has more elements of actual world building around it. Like, you can find, I think they said you could find a man on top of a hill who was like talking about spying on women, and you could choose to interrogate him or follow him around. And then later they found a shack that had loads of rotting bodies in it. Now those two things are unrelated. Then, like, that's not his shack. But by putting those things close to each other in the world, you build your own stories around, maybe it was him. And
yeah, this is it. This is back to is Bigfoot in GTA San Andreas?
Well, yeah.
Answer no. But, there we go.
They said a couple of other interesting things as well in their Q&A about how the weapon degradation works. Like, does it affect aiming? They said it's not significant. Your gun's never going to flat out break, but if you don't clean it, the stats would dip a little, which is something that we saw as well. And was the hunger and fatigue system well balanced or a hindrance? And they said it didn't feel like they were ever babysitting Arthur. So it seems to be there, but in the background maybe a little bit. So that's a quick summary of the GameSpot preview and what they thought about the opening. It doesn't help us too much establish what that opening is. Like, I guess it's going to be quite similar to GTA then. If you had to put a marker on it, it's a heist that goes wrong, everyone has to escape, and then it skips forward into like how they pick up the pieces.
And that's the bit we played. We did play a mission that basically was a heist, a train heist, and that felt as an intro quite like what GTA 5's North Yankton was. So I'm actually quite surprised that Rockstar have given away the intro. I guess maybe they don't feel there's a need for surprise, and I guess I'm also a tiny bit surprised that they choose to make it so slow, if this is true, because modern gamers are very impatient. And if you played something like God of War or Spider-Man, the big Sony single-player games, you're punching people in the face in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, they don't really mess around. So it's quite bold of Rockstar if they do something a little bit more haunting and thematic. If they do.
I think there's potential for it to be pretty story heavy in those first opening 30 minutes to an hour to, get all the conversation systems up, make sure you understand how everything works, how all of the fatigue systems and everything works. So it might be a very long tutorial, essentially, that then opens up into the big open world. But, we'll see.
Yeah.
Not long to wait. So, with that out of the way, we're going to do some fast facts from all of the previews. Now, obviously, there's been loads of previews out in the last week or two. Loads of outlets have seen the game. They've all picked up on little things. So what we're going to do is collate them all together now in a big list that I'm going to rapid fire through. Dan's going to jump in if anything jumps out. He's not really seen much of this list, so it'll be a nice experience for us to go through, and we can call out if any of the things sound familiar or any of the things are interesting. Some of these are from websites that needed translating, so some of the wording might not be quite right. Some of the things might sound different to how they actually are, so just bear that in mind.
Yeah, for example, there's a story doing the rounds today, and this is Thursday. What's the day today? The 4th?
Yeah.
Thursday the 4th. There's a big story doing the rounds about Rockstar have confirmed the map contains every location from the original game and more. There's a story doing the rounds, but weirdly all the sites who've reported the story link back to the same translated Dutch website, but none of them actually link to it. So there's a slight danger of this. Someone reports it, not really attributed. Everyone copies the story that got it wrong and thinks that's the source. Take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah. So these should be just gameplay features and mechanics and things like that. There's not a lot of story or hardly any story things in here, so you should be relatively spoiler free. Obviously we're going to talk about mechanics and gameplay and things like that, but nothing that should ruin your enjoyment. So let's kick off. I'm going to go through, jump in whenever you feel like it, Dan. You can pull down your bandana by accessing the face mask option in the item wheel. At times during missions, gang members will ask you how to proceed, letting you take the lead or have a gang member take the lead instead.
We actually saw that in our demo where we were given the choice to prompt a gang member to do a silent takedown, or you can go ahead and do the kill, or lead from the front.
Yeah. Arthur will automatically loot everything he sees in robberies by holding down a button. Deadeye can be improved and upgraded multiple times, adding the ability to show things like critical hit zones and automatically painting enemies. When doing a side mission, you get the option to take John with you or leave him at the camp. You can browse clothing options by flicking through a catalogue on a shelf as if it were a real physical book. Clothing is mostly cosmetic, but it will protect you from the cold. You can also modify clothing by tucking your pants into your boots or rolling up your sleeves. Also, there are fedoras.
Can I just ask for people to address in the comments, shirts tucked or untucked? You decide.
In general or as a cowboy?
Well, generally
Okay.
in life. Also as a cowboy if you want, but generally in life. Tucked or untucked?
You can buy gun oil, which you can use to restore old and dirty weapons you found in the world to full working order, restoring their damage and other stats to their proper values. Other items to buy in the gunsmith include things such as holsters, which will slow down the speed that weapons degrade over time. Arthur will react to the weather, changing his posture in the rain and tucking his chain in to avoid it getting wet.
This was something I thought from the demo where the incidental animations were very context sensitive. So you do get a sense of this character who's very much in tune with his environment. You see it a lot with the horse as well, and we'll talk about this in a minute, with the way the horse will react depending on where you're stood. But it brings it to life. It's a really nice touch.
Dialogue on horseback was recorded twice. Characters will speak normally when riding close and yell when you're further away from them. You can holster your weapon with a fancy flourish by double tapping L1. Arthur needs to eat and sleep, and if you don't sleep, you won't regenerate health or stamina as quickly. While hunting and stretching the bow, you can whistle to make your prey show its head and neck, and then get a nice kill, which we definitely did.
Nice touch.
After killing an animal, you can choose whether to skin it or collect it whole and load it onto the back of your horse. In order to more realistically replicate the rhythms of shooting of the time, the fire button now has two functions. You press it one time and it shoots the bullet. You press it a second time to raise the gun's hammer or eject the rifle's shell. When you pull out a weapon, you can use the D-pad to orientate it towards the sky and fire off a warning shot.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't see that in action. There's definitely a sense that the interaction system via L2 allows you to like warn or de-escalate situations. This sounds almost like a contributor to that.
Yeah, I think we've seen a clip of it in one of the trailers of Arthur firing a shot into the air and then someone who was running away stopping.
Okay, it's interesting, particularly for witness situations where you're a bit behind but you need to get them to slow down. It.
By overhearing a private conversation or by secretly following a suspicious man, for example, you can discover clandestine activities located in the back of buildings. You can point your gun at someone and you might be able to get them to open up an armoured door behind which illegal activities are hidden.
And this sets up the moment where you break into Moe's Tavern and he's got a panda smuggling ring out the back. There won't be that, but please let there be panda smuggling in a back room. That would be an Easter egg. Apologies if that's a spoiler, that really is a guess.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens, then...
Yeah, I'm not going to claim credit for that.
Hunting missions for legendary animals are confirmed. All missions, whether they are main, secondary, or just random encounters, are all considered important, and each of them are part of the main storyline. Now, I guess that means the main storyline for you as a character. Like, it's, as we've mentioned before, it's mainly going to be about your story, what you did in the world. So it all relates to, like, your activities. With the exception of the lasso, the dagger, and other handful gadgets like binoculars, Arthur can bring with him only 2 pistols and a long-barreled or heavy weapon, including the bow. We can craft better equipment for our fellow gang members. You can jump onto the train from your horse if you are close enough. Your horse continues to follow the train, so it's implied but not confirmed that you can jump back onto your horse after you're done with the train.
Great stuff. That's the staple of all great comedy movies, where you leap onto your horse from a distance and you either clang your knackers or the horse walks away and you end up on the dust, as witnessed in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
I can see a lot of instances of trying to make that jump back to your horse and ending up rolling down a hill.
Oh, it could be good times. Good times for playing Red Dead Online and capturing footage of it.
You can drive the train. Some of the options when in the main car include accelerate, brake, ring bell, and whistle. If you accelerate, you can gain lots of speed and escape bounty hunters if you've got them chasing you, but your horse will also be left behind. Horses aren't as fast as trains. If Arthur loses his hat or his weapon gets shot from his hand, they will reappear in the horse's inventory. If you lose your hat, it will also appear as an icon on the minimap. You're given a camera during one of the side quests, which stays in your inventory forever. You can take pictures of the landscapes or self-portraits with it. Self-portraits this time don't just include head and upper body like in modern selfies, but the whole of Arthur Morgan.
I was talking about this off air with James because it's sort of hilarious. Like, if you think of the old school tripod cameras, they took about a week to set up, and then the exposure might not be right and you had to wait for the film, etc., etc. I'm guessing this will be a little bit faster. So, like, notionally it might be, it's not a digital camera, but you can bet your bottom dollar it will be as quick as one, or people will go mad.
Yeah, I think you'll press maybe you'll set up the shot, you'll press the camera button and you'll be put into that first person grid-like view where you can then move it around and take the picture that you want. Hunting is the main source of income other than heists and robberies. You get many recipes and crafting options which unlock as the game progresses. Arthur can set up a personal camp for himself to cook food, where he can either eat for himself or feed his horse. Story missions initiate time jumps, and cities and states are built and growing as you progress. The first part of the story focuses on the Grizzlies and New Hanover areas of the map. The camp itself needs to be maintained. It won't necessarily be in a shambles if you don't visit it for a very long time though. You can wear animal carcasses as a hat. That's good. Yeah. I think we've seen one picture of a tiny mouse in Arthur Morgan's hat.
Incredible. So like, you want one of those proper like beaver hats, don't you, with the long tails? That'd be fantastic.
Your horse will be slowed down if it falls in the mud. You have to exit the mud, and then its speed will gradually return to normal as it shakes the mud off its feet. Snow on Arthur's clothing will eventually melt, mud will harden and wipe away, and blood will dry. The cinematic camera will now automatically trigger in certain instances, like a long journey to a mission location. This will frame the journey with a series of montage shots that will emphasise the landscape and the travelling group. You can actually break your enemy weapons when shooting them.
Yeah, that's a cool touch. We've not seen that really, have we?
Your weapons can jam. It's unknown how frequent that will be, but customisation will lessen the chances. Arthur will be dizzy and his vision blurry if he doesn't eat. So that, I guess, implies that some of the survival aspects of it do make a difference after a certain amount of time. How long that amount of time is between eating, don't know. Gang members will often join you on free roam activities, giving you access to the same kind of assistance seen in the story missions, like you can ask them to go ahead and take out an enemy. Arthur can swap his hat for any others that he finds on the ground, or that he shoots off an enemy's head.
It's funny that, because that seemed like a big thing of our demo. Like, Rockstar reps kept saying, oh, you can pick up his hat. I do wonder if there will be almost like some kind of collectible or something in Find the 5 magical hats. Not magical, but, you know, something special hats that are dotted randomly around pedestrians in the world, or something to do with different types of hats.
Yeah, it reminded me very much of Westworld. And, you know, like, can you find the cowboy with the white hat?
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, it did feel like there was more than... It felt like there was something more to it than just cosmetic.
You can whistle at people to get their attention. First-person mode comes with options like removing the head of your horse, not physically, to give yourself a less obstructed view when riding. Mission objectives appear, as in previous Rockstar games, in short sentences at the bottom of the screen with keywords written in yellow. Now here's the big one, Dan.
Yeah.
Horse testicles shrink and expand depending on the temperature in the game world.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great headline. I don't really think this is a particularly significant thing in terms of gameplay or anything, but what a great headline. Good PR on Rockstar's side, I would say. They've had the balls to go and do it, as you wouldn't say you had any credibility.
Helping the camp out will expand the types of activities other members will go on with you and will change the stories told around the campfire. The 5 states in the game are Amberino, Lemoyne, New Hanover, New Austin and West Elizabeth, with the first 2 obviously appearing in Red Dead Redemption 1.
Yeah, this is the interesting one, because there's this story going around today saying it's the biggest map they've ever done. It confirms that everything that's in Red Dead Redemption is in the new one. Still doesn't feel entirely sourced. Like, we think we know to be true New Hanover, which is the area we played most of the demo. We also know Lemoyne to be true because it's quite literally being glimpsed, and we know there's stuff there.
The Grizzlies we've seen, that's the mountain range that you do at the beginning.
Yeah, but it's interesting if these things are like confirmed. And it just seemed like you were saying the initials are on the website, so it does sound quite legit.
Yeah, you can see the state initials on the Rockstar website. I don't think there is actually a New Austin one on there.
Okay.
But that's because those locations haven't officially been revealed.
Yeah.
So take it with a pinch of salt. You can increase the speed of your hair growth with a tonic you can purchase from stores. Strangers return from Red Dead 1, but their location is not pinpointed on the map. Instead, you are shown an area to search. Your horse will poop.
On request or randomly?
I'm going to
ask
guess
you.
Randomly. I mean, I don't think you can tell the horse to, hold in the poop until you get to a certain location.
In Metal Gear Solid 5, you could request that your horse poop and do formation pooping on a track or highway, so you could intercept an incoming car and get it to skid on layers of carefully orchestrated horse poop and then take the guys out as they spilled out of the car.
Well, maybe on request then.
We'll see. I don't think, this is not the same game, but let's see if it's anything more than cosmetic.
This bit is interesting. The gang apparently has a big money stash stored somewhere in Blackwater, but it becomes inaccessible after the failed bank heist, which forces them to flee north and out of West Elizabeth. If you upgrade Dutch's tent in the gang's camp, you can unlock a map at your tent that will let you go to different settlements you've previously visited via a cutscene of you riding there.
Yeah, Rockstar mentioned that to us. You can then use the camp as a kind of quick trip skip location.
Because it's massive and you might not want to ride across the whole map every time.
That to me feels like something that is quite heavily incentivised then, because the map is huge and horse riding across it is quite slow compared to, say, a plane or a jetpack from previous Rockstar games. So I can imagine people being, keen to do that.
Your whistle has a range. You can improve it during the game by bonding with your horse. Deadeye has 5 levels, from slowing down time to automatically or manually placing aim points to highlight critical points on animals and NPCs, with the option to dual wield later on. You can engrave your guns. Blind firing is an option. You cannot kill your horse by shooting it. Gang members might die, but you can hire new ones throughout the story.
Oh, that's interesting. I do wonder how much they'll play at the element of if a key person bites the bullet, perhaps quite literally, will the gang members mourn? How significantly will it affect the story? I think the thing is, Rockstar were very keen to stress to us is this is not like a branching game like a Heavy Rain or Detroit, which takes you in a completely different direction. Everyone goes to the same place, just with a different set of incidental stories.
Yeah. Okay, we're nearly there. Steps will leave footprints, which will fill up with water if it rains. Dead bodies that haven't been looted are now marked on the minimap. If you argue with a comrade at your campfire in the evening, he will not be very friendly to you the next day. Conversely, if you've done something good for the camp, the gang NPCs tend to favour you. You can talk to any NPC in the game. If you're too infamous, people can automatically call the sheriff on you when you reach a village. So I guess that's if you've got a bounty on your head. When you enter the village, people will know that you're a wanted man. Guns are rated from 0 to 4 on the following attributes: damage, range, fire rate, reload, accuracy, and condition. Gunsmiths will comment on your guns for being in poor condition if you try to upgrade them. They can also repair the weapons for you. If you take your horse close to a source of water, it'll drink from it. Stashing a dead deer on your horse makes it noticeably slower. You can talk to groups of people rather than simply one-on-ones, so if 2 guys are talking, you can greet them and they will both acknowledge you. When you go into cold weather or hot weather, you will automatically equip or unequip a coat. And finally, you have to make decisions quickly, e.g. if you see someone getting robbed, the world doesn't slow down to wait for you to make a choice, it just carries on.
Yeah.
So there you go, a whole bunch of facts and points from all of the previews and some of our experiences about Red Dead Redemption 2.
I wanted to throw in one last thing that no one would have been expecting. I'm potentially interested in doing a live Red Dead 2 o'clock show. And I will stress this won't be in like San Francisco or Los Angeles. It will be in somewhere far more glamorous.
Like the UK.
Like the UK, the southwest of England in particular, because that's, where we're based. So we're potentially looking at doing an event, when the game's out in a few weeks. Big screen, very informal night, live recording of a show. Maybe we play Red Dead Online together. Drinks, that kind of thing, something quite fun. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in and would attend, and I guess that really does kind of narrow it down to UK-based people, let us know in the comments. It's something we're exploring. We'll also talk about it on Twitter, perhaps nearer the time. I'm just at this stage interested to see if there'd be interest in seeing us do something live. And it's quite hard to gauge that because essentially, whilst the show sometimes reaches hundreds of thousands of people, which is fantastic, and I can't thank you enough for that, we are essentially 2 people stood in a room, and it really isn't the most glamorous room. I mean, all right, it is. It's really glamorous. We've done so well. We've made it the top of our game. But as a result, it's hard to sort of get a sense of who would actually want to come and see us do this live. So if you are interested in it, drop us something in the comments.
I'd put like hashtag Red Dead Live or something to make it easy for us to go into the comments and find how many people are interested.
Yeah, thank you. That would be great.
So that would be great. Get in touch with us on Twitter at Red Dead 2 o'clock, and we'll be back next Friday at 2 p.m. for another show, unless Rockstar drop a trailer in the meantime.
Do we ever ask people to subscribe anymore? Is that old hat?
I'll subscribe if you want, yeah.
Good. Thanks, folks.